6 wake-up habits that flipped my life into a new chapter in just 7 days. Welcome to Live Stoic, Live Strong. Have you ever felt like you're drowning in your own thoughts? Like the battle isn't with the world, but with the chaos inside your mind? What if I told you that just 7 days, one focused, disciplined week, could be enough to shift everything? Not just a boost, a reset. This isn't about hype or hope. It's about an ancient philosophy, brutally clear, quietly powerful, and the 6 habits that brought me back to life. There comes a moment when you realize the real enemy isn't the world outside, it's your own undisciplined mind. I found myself in that exact place not long ago, drenched in anxiety, consumed by noise, constantly torn between what I had to do and what I wanted to escape to. I was stuck, spiraling, so I stopped. I gave myself 7 days, 1 week, not for rest, not for escape, but to reset my life. I returned to the only philosophy that had ever grounded me in reality, that could cut through the fog with ruthless clarity. Stoicism. 6 ancient habits, simple in form, powerful in function. I didn't just learn them, I lived them. And in just 1 week, they didn't simply improve my life, they redefined it. This isn't a motivational speech. It's not some feel-good fluff. It's a blueprint, a manual for taking back your time, your focus, your energy, and ultimately, yourself. Let me walk you through the habits that changed everything. Habit number 1, the first victory. Command the morning. The first transformation begins at dawn. Not with a quote, not with caffeine, but with command. Before the world had a chance to pull me in, I pulled myself together. Every morning before the sun dared to rise, I did. No phone. No noise, no endless scrolling or dopamine drip, just me and presence. For 10 sacred minutes, in complete silence, I recited one question from Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That question didn't just echo. It framed everything that followed. While the world slept, or worse, reacted, I had already won. I chose clarity over confusion, intention over impulse, direction over distraction. Waking up isn't enough. You have to arrive, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. That's the real alarm clock. Habit number 2. Replace noise with order. Noise doesn't just live out there. It grows inside. Emails, notifications, opinions, outrage. All of it, a swarm of invisible static. The second habit? Radical mental hygiene. I eliminated the clutter. In its place, 1 page from Meditations, 1 principle, 1 truth. Not to feel wise, but to train, to recalibrate my internal compass toward what mattered most. Courage, reason, temperance, justice. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." That's what modern life feeds on. Imagine suffering dressed up as information. But after just 1 week, something shifted. The fog lifted. My mind wasn't spinning. It was still, clear, sharp, grounded. Habit number 3, physical discipline. No excuses. Your body is supposed to obey your mind. But when neglected, it rebels. It takes control. That's why every day I introduced controlled physical discomfort. Cold showers, fasting, pushing my limits, on purpose. Not to impress, not to punish, but to reclaim dominion over impulse. The Stoics weren't soft. They didn't chase comfort. They chased strength. They tested themselves daily. Because if you can't choose discomfort voluntarily, how can you possibly face real adversity? That week, I didn't just meet resistance from the outside. I stared down the weakness within. And I overcame it. Not with hype, but with habit. Not with motivation, but with ritual. Repetition. Relentless practice. These were only the first 3 habits, but they began something I hadn't felt in years. Control, clarity, calm. Thank you for staying with Live Stoic, Live Strong. It means you're seeking more than words. We're here for that journey with you, and it was only the beginning. Next, I'll share the habit that completely rewired the way I respond to pressure, the habit that taught me how to stay unshaken in chaos. Ready? Let's keep going. Previously, I shared the first 3 habits that brought me back to clarity, starting with the morning, mastering the noise, and regaining control over the body. But transformation isn't just about how you begin your day. It's also about how you value and end it. Let's continue. Habit number 4, time accountability. Treating every moment like it matters every morning, I reminded myself of one harsh but liberating truth. Time is not promised. It is loaned. We live like there's always more. More time, more chances, more tomorrows. But each day that passes is a withdrawal from the one account we cannot refill, our life. The Stoics knew this. They didn't just talk about it, they lived by it. And so, I began doing the same. I stopped making vague plans and stopped waiting for the perfect time to start. Because the perfect time never comes. Instead, I asked myself one grounding question. What am I doing with the time I've been given today? Is this day worthy of the person I say I want to become? This wasn't about hustle. It wasn't about squeezing productivity out of every second. It was about alignment. Matching actions to values. Honoring the moment, instead of escaping it. Seneca warned us long ago. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. And he was right. In just a few days, something inside me shifted. My decisions became sharper. My distractions lost their power. I stopped trying to fill time and started trying to honor it. Because when you stop treating time like it's disposable, you stop treating yourself like you're disposable too. Habit number 5, the evening audit. The courtroom of the mind. Each night I held a private tribunal. No distractions, no music, just silence and truth. I would ask myself, what did I do today that was worthy of respect? And what did I do that needs to be corrected? This wasn't self-punishment. It wasn't shame. It was structure. It was discipline. The Stoics didn't flinch from self-examination. They approached it the way a seasoned soldier would review a battlefield. Calmly, precisely, with no space for excuses or emotional fog. And soon I started seeing what had been hidden. The small compromises, the excuses, the subtle self-betrayals. Moments when I scrolled instead of focused, reacted instead of reasoned. Places where my actions were out of sync with my values. But instead of shame, I found clarity. The audit exposed my weak spots. Not to punish, but to correct. Not to regret, but to realign. By the end of each day, I wasn't drifting anymore. I was tracking. Tracking who I was becoming, one decision at a time. I replaced fantasy with fact. Illusion with insight. Each night, I reclaimed control. That one simple habit didn't just change my week. It began to recalibrate the entire trajectory of my life. Habit number 6. Speak less, act more. The power of voluntary silence. Finally, I turned my attention to speech, not just what I said, but why I said it. I practiced voluntary silence. Not to hide. Not to avoid. But to refine myself. In every interaction, I asked 3 questions. Does this need to be said? Does it need to be said now? Does it need to be said by me? Most of the time, the answer was no. So I stopped broadcasting. I started observing. I spoke less and listened more. I learned that restraint isn't weakness, it's power. Quiet power. As Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, once reminded us, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should listen twice as much as we speak. By the end of that week, I wasn't just more mindful, I was more respected. Because stillness draws attention in a way noise never can. 6 habits. 1 week. A permanent shift. Not because I changed the world around me, but because I changed my relationship with myself, my time, my body, my voice, and my mind. The world will always be loud, messy, and unpredictable. You can't control it, but you can control how you stand in it. And in the next part, I'll show you what happens when you carry these 6 habits into the chaos of real life, how they hold you steady when the world begins to shake. Are you ready? 6 habits. 1 week. A complete internal shift. You can't control the world, but you can control how you show up in it, and that begins with preparation. You can't predict the chaos. You can't pause the storm, but you can prepare for it. That's where Stoicism becomes not just philosophy, but a framework. A daily, disciplined practice for dignity in the midst of disorder. Stoicism doesn't promise comfort. It promises clarity. These habits, they are not for the fragile ego or the passive observer. They are for the one who is done pretending, done performing for others, done drifting through life without direction. They are for the person who's finally ready to return to themselves. You don't need a life overhaul. You don't need to wait for a new year, or a breakdown, or a lightning strike of motivation. You need just 1 week. 1 week. 6 habits. No compromise. Because when the world stays loud, you stay still. When others crumble, you hold. When everything shakes, you remain unshakable. That's not luck. That's not talent. That's practice. Thank you for your time. If one idea touched you today, come back next time. It may reach deeper. Share this with someone who needs a quiet moment. See you in the next video.